Hold your breath and prepare for a gripping journey into Taiwan's darkest day. June 27, 2015, forever etched in history as the day an infamous water park transformed into a nightmare. Join us as we unravel the chilling events of Taiwan's largest and most unforgettable disaster. The joyous atmosphere of over 4,000 attendees quickly turned to terror when a deadly dust explosion ripped through the crowd. This unexpected calamity claimed 15 lives and left nearly 500 injured. Such a tragedy seemed impossible at a venue intended for joy and celebration. What led to this tragic event? How could a party meant for joy end in such horror? In this video, we delve into the disturbing truth behind the tragedy. We uncover the story of negligence, poor choices, and a deadly dust explosion. This is the unfortunate tale of the color party accident that left thousands of innocent lives scarred forever. A well-deserved celebration was underway, marking the end of the school year. As an annual tradition, young people from across the region gathered at the Color Play Asia party, a feast of sound and color that stretched late into the night. The highlight of the event was the explosion of color. Event staff, armed with air blowers and compressed gas canisters, sprayed green and yellow cornstarch across the crowd. This spectacle, designed to mirror the vibrant festivities of India's Festival of Colors, sent waves of delight through the crowd. The park was transformed into a surreal, multicolored landscape. Imagine the spectacle. The air itself was alive with color. As the sun dipped and the stage lights took over, their vibrant colors mixed with the airborne powder, casting a mesmerizing kaleidoscope effect. A sight to behold, an experience to immerse in. This was the essence of Color Play Asia. As twilight faded, the night danced to the rhythm of over 4,000 happy hearts. A chorus of laughter and chatter filled the air. The night sky, now covered in a blanket of sparkling yellow and green cornstarch, looked like a fantastical dream. The Color Play Asia party was in full swing. But then, in the blink of an eye, this dream turned into a horrifying nightmare. In a shocking turn of events, the harmless cloud of colors transformed into a deadly inferno. The playful cornstarch dust, previously a symbol of joy, now fueled a rapidly expanding fireball, converting the twilight tranquility into a terrifying spectacle. The question on everyone's mind was, how did this happen? Well, apparently when this harmless cornstarch was suspended in air and exposed to intense heat, it misbehaved. The physics behind it is similar to the flammability of a fine spray of fuel. And the source of this ignition? The stage lights, high-temperature devices just waiting to ignite the floating cloud of cornstarch. Fear replaced joy, and a stampede of frenzied partygoers tried to escape the flames. Descriptions from those present paint a vivid picture.
I tried to help a girl to escape the scene, but she was so badly burned that she said she couldn't move.
One witness likened the scene to a war zone, saying it was a vision of hell on earth. Recalling the horrific scene, he said, "Everyone was screaming and there was blood everywhere. The waterway was filled with blood because everyone was dipping themselves in it to soothe their burns. The injuries sustained were really, really bad. Many suffered from severe burns that covered almost 90% of their entire body." Can you picture it? People who were just moments ago celebrating now suffering from unimaginable pain and some death. The victims and their families were left grappling with the shocking aftermath, their lives irrevocably altered by a disaster that unfolded in mere moments. Parallel to their struggle, a different kind of frenzy took hold as authorities and emergency services sprang into action. Their mission was clear: extinguish fires, mobilize medical help, and bring order to the chaos. The eerie calm that replaced the pandemonium stood as a chilling reminder of the abruptness of the tragedy and a testament to the efficiency of the emergency response. But could you imagine the terror of a parent at that moment, racing against time, fueled by paralyzing fear, hoping against hope that their child was safe? One mother's account puts this terror into perspective. She arrived at the park to find her daughter lying on an inflatable boat, burned, shaken, and with skin falling off from the severity of her burns. All of her skin was gone, the mother wept. Her hands were shaking, and she kept calling for me. Can you imagine the heartbreak and sheer terror? Across the park, similar scenes were playing out. Chen Wan Xuan, a young woman with dreams of modeling, suffered second and third degree burns on more than 70% of her body. Imagine the pain, the fear, and the uncertainty of what the future now holds. The stories of the victims, those who lost their lives and those who survived, serve as a poignant reminder of the human cost of this tragedy. A day meant for joy is now forever etched in their minds as a day of pain and loss, a day that would change their lives forever. But what happened to the dreams that the hopeful people who had gathered at the water park that day held? The tragedy of June 27, 2015, left many victims facing an uncertain future. Remember Chen Wan-xuan, the aspiring model? Imagine a young woman, vibrant and full of life and dreams, now having to reassess her future with over 70% of her body scarred. "I can't imagine what sort of future she is going to have," her distraught father said in an interview. But it wasn't just the aspiring model whose dreams were ripped away that day. A young man named Chen, who had dreams of one day playing professional baseball, suffered burns on over 60% of his body, his dreams shattering like glass. These stories, heartbreaking as they are, were only a fraction of the human tragedy that unfolded that day. Many others suffered similar fates. Their dreams and aspirations were extinguished in the fiery ordeal. Survivors were left with not only physical scars, but emotional ones too. The journey to recovery was a long and painful one, with many having to adjust to the limitations their injuries placed on their lives. But in the face of it all, their resilience remained unbroken. Despite the odds and the pain, they pressed on. And the most haunting question that lingers is, could this have been prevented? The tragedy sent a wave of shock washed over Taiwan, and the government stepped in. New Taipei City's mayor Eric Chu ordered the water park closed temporarily. Taiwan Premier Mao Chi-kuo went further and banned the use of colored powders at private events. But would these measures be enough to prevent a repeat of such a horrific incident? Simultaneously, the fire department swung into action, searching for clues amidst the ashes and debris. Their findings confirmed that the sprayed powder was the root cause of the fire, and the hot stage lights were the suspected ignition source.
Taiwan's fire department has concluded the explosion was caused by a powder spray.
But the mystery deepened. What exactly went wrong? All roads led to one man, Liu Chengqi, the head of Color Play and Juipo International Marketing. He admitted to purchasing 3 tons of cornstarch-based powder, but he claimed ignorance about how such an explosion could have occurred. However, evidence began to reveal a pattern of negligence. The fact that smoking was permitted at the event undeniably heightened the risk of ignition. Moreover, the event was devoid of water sprays, a crucial safety measure that could have significantly mitigated the fire risk. This combination of factors raises a pivotal question. Was this a mere oversight or a grave error?
Yes, there was. I was not at the scene when the accident happened, and I was negligent in my management.
Each revelation and each piece of evidence seemed to raise more questions than they answered. As the investigations reached a critical point, legal repercussions began to take shape. Liu Chengqi found himself in the crosshairs of the law, charged with negligence by the Shilin district prosecutors. The man who once headed 2 companies was now facing the gravest of charges. The entire nation, not just the families of the victims, closely followed the trial proceedings. After months of deliberation, the verdict was finally delivered. Liu Chengqi was found guilty. His punishment? 5 years in prison. For some, this was a victory, a symbol of justice served. But for many others, including the families of the victims, the sentence was woefully inadequate. A mere 5 years for such a horrific incident that claimed 15 lives and scarred hundreds of others? The outcry was massive, yet the prosecutors were helpless. According to the law, workplace negligence leading to death carries a maximum punishment of only 5 years in prison. Despite the enormity of the disaster, the hands of justice were seemingly tied. As the nation grappled with the verdict, life continued to unfold for the survivors. Compensation was announced, a salve, albeit insufficient, for the deep wounds inflicted. Depending on the severity of their injuries, survivors were to receive between 65,000 and 6.5 million new Taiwanese dollars. The families of the deceased victims were to be awarded $8.2 million. But could this really compensate for the irreversible loss they had suffered? The wheels of justice, however, kept turning. In an unexpected turn of events, Formosa Fun Coast, the venue of the ill-fated event, also found itself on the defendant's stand. For the first time, the court ruled that the venue was also liable, charging it with negligence. This resulted in an additional compensation of approximately 6 million Taiwanese dollars, being awarded to a survivor in December 2020. It was a pivotal moment. It marked a shift in the blame game, highlighting the shared responsibility for ensuring safety at public events. But does the buck stop here? What does this mean for future events and their safety measures? The Taiwanese government didn't rest. The ashes of the tragedy fertilized the grounds for a new burn center, an investment aimed at ensuring better preparedness for burn victims. But the ripple effects didn't stop there. The National Health Insurance saw amendments and changes brought about to provide better support for the survivors of the fire and many more like them in the future. In the end, what remains of this tragedy is more than just a scar on Taiwan's collective memory. It serves as a stark reminder of the hazards tied to seemingly harmless substances like combustible dust. It compels us to question, seek understanding, and be ever vigilant of our surroundings. More importantly, it urges us to spread this understanding, not limiting it to a few, but extending it across societies and borders, because collective understanding is the key to collective prevention. This tragedy should serve as a wake-up call, a call to never let complacency and ignorance turn a playground into a death trap, a call to prevent the repetition of such disasters.